So guys, let's do a really quick video, which is about private jets and the communication, which is one of the most interesting skill to learn, I I reckon, and that's absolutely amazing. How much deeper can you dig, and can you really you can dive into other people's psyche. Meaning, I think there are maybe four layers, but the most important one are two, which is you can focus like everybody does, which is the normal way, the normal layer everybody stays on, is you focus on the word they say. You focus on just the word that come out of their mouths, which is fine. You can understand what they're saying, you can reply back, or you can, you acknowledge, you listen to the words they say, but you focus on, rather than just the word itself, you focus on what they're trying to convey. What's their purpose? What's the purpose behind the word they're using? Why are saying that to you? Why are they speaking in that manner? What's their purpose? Like, usually you can ask yourself, what are they trying to obtain or compensate about? Like, well, imagine if a person says a lot of, well, there are basically five things that if you're in a sales call, you don't tolerate, which they basically just get out. Imagine you're the, how do you say, you're the shepherd, and you have a sheep, which is your prospect, and you have to keep the sheep inside the frame, inside the topic of the conversation, which is their problem. Because if a prospect comes, if you're into sales, if a prospect or someone comes into your room, like your virtual room, they're trying to change. They have a problem they want to solve, right? And you have to remember this every time they have a problem. You have the solution. They want the solution for the problem. It's as simple as that. In fact, one of the first questions should be, and usually is, why did you book this call? As simple as that. But another one is really, well, for example, if positives, which sounds creepy, but if they focus on positives, and we're gonna talk about that in this video, in these 5 minutes I got, it's not good. If vagueness, like, oh, not enough. How much is enough? How much are you doing? What's the gap, right? You have to know tangibles, you have to know numbers, you have to be precise. It's not just I'm working too much. How much are you working? How much would you tolerate? How long are you willing to stay in this position for? How long are you willing to keep this standard for, right? And another one is, for example, other than vagueness, we said, and positives, we have time period. I don't give a fuck what you did 20 years ago. It's not relevant. Well, of course it is. Sometimes you have to get into what they tried in the past, why it didn't work, what has prevented them from moving forward earlier, which is an amazing advice I learned. And of course in the future, what they're trying to achieve. So you have to get the past, the future, but you have to keep the 90% of the call into the present. What are you doing right now? What's not working? What's a good question in Italian is, what are you doing that you would like to stop doing? Everybody has their thing, and that's the pain. That's a little way of digging the pain. And remember, the two biggest motivators for human beings are pain and fear of future pain. You have to keep that in mind if you want to sell. That's I swear to God, it's really it. And another one is, for example, other people, so circumstances, which means not taking a responsibility for themselves. That's really important. You have to. You don't allow other people to focus on. You don't allow your prospect. I'm sorry, to focus on other people. So they did that. So I'm not in this position or situation that I want to. It's your, even if it's not your fault, you have to take accountability and responsibility for what you're responsible for, right? It's really easy to how would you say, to give responsibility to someone else, and it's a wrong behavior. Like, if you catch yourself doing it, at least be conscious of that. And of course, stories, lies, excuses. That's something I don't want. That's the fifth thing I don't want into my sales call. I don't want lies. I want to be truthful. For them, for with me, and me with them. And stories, yeah. If they talk about something which is not relevant, I'm learning, and I swear to God, I'm learning. I'm not perfect. To say, let me interrupt you for a second. You said before this thing, which I think is really relevant. Can you explain what you mean by this? And that's a way for, because people will talk for 2 hours straight about a fucking nothing, and your job is to stop them. But what I said in the, so I really think a beautiful lesson is the one of private jet. So I talk with I learned from a girl, from a woman who does private jet. She rents a private jet to people, and she can tell by the way they act, by the way they move, how many times have they been into a private jet. Meaning, she can tell, well, if a person gets into the jet, they take a lot of pictures, they order nice and expensive dinners, they leave the place untidy, and they make noise, and they're not kind to the staff, and they get off, they don't leave the tip. That's the kind of people you can tell from a mile away. That's the first time they are in a private jet, they're experiencing a private jet. Usually the person who's an habitual, let's say, private jet user, they get in, they are kind to the staff, they order fucking McDonald, they leave the place tidy, and well, they are kind, they get off, they leave a tip, and they say bye bye. That's the way. And you can learn from this thing that, so a beautiful lesson is just acknowledging, a beautiful exercise is acknowledging when your ego speaks. And we gotta remember that ego is the enemy, right? And ego is the opposite of service. Egotism and being of service, they don't get along well, right? And ego is built to survive. Service is built to live a worthwhile life, right? So ego, what you can ask yourself, when was that ego was controlling me and or was guiding my tongue, was speaking through me, the spirit, let's say, of ego. And the beautiful question you gotta know, which is the second one, is what was I trying to compensate? So I speak about how big a client is because I'm trying to compensate for my littleness, right? For my small, let's say, confidence, for my low status, right? And mostly, no, I'm not saying it's always like that. Mostly, the people who don't have to show anything, to demonstrate, to show off, or to tell you how big their bank account is, they are the people who have the biggest bank account. And if you know rich people, that's always like that, because they don't give a fuck about telling you how rich they are. They already know how rich they are, and that's fine. That's peace, right? And yeah, having to compensate for something, it's normal. It's not normal to get attention and to be slave of that. So beware when your ego speaks, and I'll see you in the next video.